Hi, very good afternoon to all of you. Welcome to monthly market outlook call for the month of July. Myself with my colleague Abhishek and Pankaj, we are here to take you through the market journey. If you look at global scenario on slide number 3, this picture depicts everything nicely. The world has come to slow like a snail, and neither it can move forward nor it can move backward nor it can stay in the current situation. This is the best depiction of global economy at today's point of time. If we go to slide number 4, you will see that globally central banks are pumping liquidity. Country after country is announcing large fiscal and monetary stimulus. Today, fiscal stimulus is almost to the extent of 7.4 trillion, which is about 9% of global GDP in the major economies. However, slide number 5 shows the side effect of this fiscal stimulus. Fiscal stimulus is funded by borrowing, and as your debt to GDP ratio keeps on increasing, the only way you can sustain is by falling interest rate. The global aggregate yields have fallen down over the years as global debt as a percentage of GDP has kept on increasing. Next slide shows that bankers are hoping that things, I'll just shut down my video so that my audio is better. Global central banks are hoping that if they keep on printing money, somewhere miracles will happen and money supply growth will result into industrial growth. Slide number 7 shows that global bonds have recovered all their losses. There was a sharp correction in bond prices somewhere in April 2020, but that has been recovered due to pumping of liquidity and cutting down of policy rates. Slide number 8 shows equity market. Of course, in the month of March, globally equity markets corrected, but with all the fiscal and monetary stimulus in the month of May and June, 2/3 of equity losses have been covered. Obviously, this losses have been covered with sharp polarization. Slide number 9 shows you how multiple for high valuation company has moved up from average 19 times to 29 times, whereas lower valued companies have remained flat at 10 times. If earlier bigger companies, better companies were valued 2 times compared to average company, now the gap has widened to 3 times. Coming to China, the epicenter of virus, and which was the first country to come out of this virus, their different data has come in different format. Major industrial enterprises, 99% have resumed their activity. Property transactions are still down 80%. The domestic flight passengers are up 59% in May, but coal consumption is still down 121%. So clearly China recovery is happening, but it's happening in a haphazard manner. Coming to domestic economy, slide number 12 suggests that there will be businesses like agriculture, produce, telecom, FMCG, food processing, online education, fertilizer, which will be impacted less. On the other hand, advertising, aviation, tourism, travel, gem and jewelry, multiplexes, microfinance, retailing will be hit hard. It will be fair to say that leverage companies will find it difficult to survive in this current downturn. Slide number 13 shows what Street is anticipating for India's GDP. They are looking for India to contract between 5% to 7% in FY 2021. This will be first recession after 1980. However, the Street is also of the view that FY 22 GDP growth will be between 7 to 10%. If we go to slide number 14, it shows fourth quarter FY 20 results. Only 7 days was impacted in March quarter. And despite that, if you look at Nifty, X bank and X commodities, the sales are actually down 3.9%. Sales are up 3.9% against expectation of 4% drop. However, EBITDA grew much lesser at 1.1% against 3.6% growth, and net profit growth was down 22% against expectation of 7% growth. The fourth quarter FY 20 number has come way below expectation for most companies despite just 7 days lockdown. Now we'll have to see what numbers come out for the June quarter. And I'm sure that will be one of the worst quarter we have seen in our recent history. Slide number 15 shows business resumption index. This is calculated by Nomura by taking into account data from Google and Apple, and week after week post somewhere around mid-April 2020, things have started going back to normalcy. One trend which is visible is that Bharat or rural India is doing far better compared to urban India. Slide number 16 pictorially depicts Bharat versus India. Slide number 17 shows that retail fertilizer sales in the month of May 20 were 2 times higher than previous year. Kharif sowing area is also 2 times higher in June 20 compared to previous year because of early and good monsoon. Slide number 18 shows tractor sales, which has bounced back significantly in June, almost comparable to previous year in the month of June. Cement production in the month of May as well as June in rural India is almost reaching normalcy level. Even Hero MotoCorp said that in June 20, rural market, semi-urban market was relatively better compared to urban market. Slide number 19 shows the long-term aim of the government in terms of increasing farm income, and some of the steps announced in the COVID-19 economic package can probably materialize this if we really free our agriculture sector, like by removing Essential Commodities Act, by freeing up APMC market, and by permitting contract farming. Rural India will also be supported as demonstrated in slide number 20 by good monsoon. Monsoon is running at 20% above average level, and rainfall spread has been fairly normal across the country. Good monsoon will result into good agriculture, which should support good rural economy. In case of urban India, things are not as good, but they are trying to reach to normal level in the last week of June. Power consumption was down 30% in the 27th of for the week ended 27th of May. Now it is just down about 8%. E-way bill generation from about 57 million bills in the month of February have reached to 40 million bills in the month of June. Petrol and diesel consumptions, which were down 40% in the month of April, are down now about 15 and 18% in the first half of June. Electronic toll collections on a daily basis have moved to 52 crore per day compared to 63 crore in the month of February. If we look at slide number 22, it shows various high frequency indicators over April, May, and last week of June, wherever possible. Retail transactions, e-way bills, custom dues, TV advertising, diesel, petrol consumption, electricity, rail freight movement. All the data shows that June is becoming normal compared to April and May. Slide number 23 shows the same numbers in a different format: Google Mobility Index, Apple Mobility Index, and labor participation rate. What we saw in Nomura's chart, this is the detail, which again shows that June is trying to become normal compared to previous month. One data on slide number 24 talks about unemployment rate. The peak unemployment rate was 27.11% for the week ended 3rd May. From there, it is reduced to 8.59% for the week ended 20th June. Rural has lower unemployment. Urban India is slightly higher, depicting our earlier projection of Bharat doing better than urban India. The GST collection is an indicator towards what's happening on the ground. In the month of March, GST collection dipped below 1 lakh crore after almost 4-month period. April GST collection was 32,000 crore. May was 62,000 crore. And June, against all expectation, came at 91,000 crore. The PMI index also has staged recovery from 27% to 47% in the month of June. It shows that entrepreneurs are turning bullish about the future. Put this entire thing into market to slide number 28. The broad market performance in this crisis is worse than 2008 global financial crisis. More than 60% companies year-on-year revenue has declined higher compared to global financial crisis. If you remember earlier, I said in previous call that this is perfect storm. 2008 was mere financial crisis. This is medical crisis, come financial crisis, come economic crisis coming together. Slide number 29 shows how Nifty rebased to 1st Feb 2020 or 2008 or 2016 has behaved. In demonetization, Nifty corrected a little but recovered very sharply. In COVID-19's case, Nifty has corrected sharply and recovered a little bit. Somewhere between global financial crisis and demonetization, Nifty seems to be moving. Slide number 30 shows downward revision in Nifty EPS estimate from 769 earnings estimate for FY21. Earnings have now come down to 445 rupees. This makes current Nifty trading at 23 times FY21 estimate. However, as I mentioned earlier, FY22 EPS estimates are still higher at 615. If FY22 numbers are achieved, then we are looking at 16 times forward earning. Nifty today is at 10,500 Nifty, but when we prepared this presentation on 30th June, it was at 10,300 Nifty. At this level, Nifty is discounting lower gold oil imports, lower oil prices, and lower trade deficit with China. It is also discounting rebound in economic activities. It is discounting that fiscal and monetary stimulus will work on the ground and support GDP growth in FY 2022. Nifty is also discounting potentially higher FPI flows, and most importantly, Nifty is discounting medical solution emerging by the end of this year. If all these things materializes, undoubtedly Nifty will do well. If actual scenario is worse than what is priced by Nifty today, markets will probably correct. Slide number 32 suggests the development on medical solution side. Glenmark and Strides Arcolab have launched Favipiravir, which is useful for early stage COVID-19 patients. Cipla, Hitrio Drugs, and Mylan are launching Remdesivir or have launched Remdesivir, which is useful for mid-level to serious level COVID-19 patients. Dexamethasone has been approved for serious late-stage COVID-19 patients. On top of it, Zydus Cadila and Bharat Biotech have received approval for putting their vaccine on phase 1 trial. There is a lot of hope that we will be able to give some indication by 15th of August. Clearly, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 trial requires a lot of time, and 15th August will be an ambitious date. But even if we get the vaccines by 30th September or 31st December, that will be very, very positive. The world has seen about 8 vaccines entering in from phase 2 trial to phase 3 trial in the month of July. Moderna, Sanofi, University of Oxford and AstraZeneca, Pfizer and BioNTech, and couple of Chinese companies are all putting their vaccine into phase 3 trial in the month of July. Some have gone in, some are in the process of going, and that's going to have material impact onto the way economy and market functions. Clearly, we believe it is too early to predict that markets have bottomed out, because unless until we get a medical solution, that decision, that judgment cannot be made. If we look at trade deficit with China on slide number 33, the trade deficit with China has declined from $63 billion to $49 billion. That's a positive sign. But now we need to make this further decline as boycott of Chinese goods is taking huge momentum. Another interesting thing is that during this crisis, money was available for good companies. Reliance Jio, GlaxoSmithKline selling Hindustan Lever, Kotak Mahindra Bank raising capital, or HDFC Bank, ICICI Bank, HDFC proposing to raise capital. All are pointing that for good companies, money is available. Investors are happy to invest in good quality companies. FPIs have also turned buyers, as explained in slide number 35. They have bought higher in June 20 as well as in May 20 compared to previous months where they were exiting India. Obviously, mutual fund flows and insurance companies flows have reduced a little bit because of the redemption pressure, but hopefully FPI flows will support the market. MSCI and FTSE are looking to increase India's weightage in the benchmark index. FTSE will do it over 4 tranches starting from September 20, December 20, March 21, and June 21. MSCI was supposed to announce it on 30th June, but now they have deferred the decision. Both these changes can bring about $7 billion into Indian equity market. If we look at slide number 37, the credit growth has deteriorated in June 20 year ending compared to June 19. The gross bank credit year on year is up only 5.82% in June 20 compared to 10.73% in June 19. Clearly, we have to accelerate credit so that recovery can sustain, and which is where government's MSME and NBFC credit guarantee scheme will be useful. Slide number 39 shows market over different time period of 2007 December subprime crisis, May 2013 taper tantrum, and June 2020 COVID-19 crisis. Clearly, today our macros are in far better situation vis-a-vis those period. Next slide, on slide number 40, shows the impact in Nifty. It declined from 12,000 level in Jan 20 to 7,600 level in March 20, and today it is up to 10,300 level. Reliance Industries alone contributed more than 60% move from 7,600 to 10,300. The right-hand side chart shows that the maximum impact of this correction has been felt in banking and financial services sector, real estate, metal, and media sector, whereas FMCG and pharma, by and large, has been able to support and protect capital. Next slide, slide number 41, shows the same disclosure in different manner. Nifty X Financial is 14% lower from all-time high level, whereas Nifty is trading at just 2% lower from all-time high levels. If we go to slide number 42, it shows performance across market cap, and you could see that how between Jan 20 to June 20, small cap, mid cap, large cap performance has changed. On a 1 year basis, Nifty small cap was delivering about 1.5% positive return in the month of Jan, and today it is minus 25% return. Nifty was delivering 9.4% return on a 10-year basis, and Nifty mid-cap was delivering 9.6% return. Both of them have declined to below 7% return on a 10-year basis between Jan to June. Clearly, this 6 months have seen dramatic erosion in Nifty and Nifty mid-cap. If we look at the same thing on slide number 43, there are a couple of interesting observations. From December 17 high, Nifty is down 2%, Nifty mid cap is down 30%, and Nifty small cap is down 49%. However, in calendar year 2020, mid caps have fallen only 14% compared to 15% for Nifty. Clearly, mid cap seems to be taking into account sharp correction of previous years and not falling as much as large cap. If you go to slide number 44, it shows how market tries to discount future. When 9/11 attack happened, aviation stock declined significantly in anticipation of airline sector being hit very hard with no flying of aircrafts with high security cost. Over next 1 month, this performance aviation sector became best performing sector as fear of market was unfounded. Airlines started flying and security costs were not prohibitive. From current scenario, if going forward, there is hope on medical side, if there is reduction in COVID infections and death, if normalcy of economic activity returns, if fiscal stimulus and monetary stimulus works as demonstrated on slide number 45, markets will continue to rise from here. On the other hand, if market gets feared because of increase in COVID infections and deaths, because of disruptions in normal economic activity, because of lockdown extensions or India-China border dispute or fiscal and monetary stimulus not working, markets will correct from current level. At this point of time, our view is that you should be overweight equities. And while many clients are now getting convinced because of the up move in index, slide number 47 will be a good level to show that today you are able to buy Nifty 50 large cap at 3 year before prices because Nifty is trading at 2017 level. Nifty mid cap is available at 4 year before prices. You are able to buy Nifty mid cap at 2016 levels, and you are able to buy Nifty small cap at 9 year before prices, as Nifty small cap is trading at 2011 levels. Clearly, this is a great opportunity for investment if you are looking to overcome current situation. The other way to look at is market cap to GDP ratio. The peak market cap to GDP ratio in December 2007 was 149%. The average market cap to GDP ratio is 73% over last 15 years. And FY20 end market cap to GDP ratio was 56%. Today we are trading roughly at about 71%. This is the time to be marginally overweight equity. On a price to book basis, also on slide number 49, you could see that we are trading at about 10% discount to our historical price to book average of 2.7x. Slide number 50 gives you answer why market Nifty is not reflecting current economic situation. Well, if you divide Nifty 50 in two parts, top 15 stocks like Lever, Nestle, Asian Paints, Reliance, they are trading at 13,890 Nifty level. If you take out other 35 stocks, Nifty is trading at 7,498 level, and which is where you see Nifty 50 at 10,302 level. Companies which have done well, they are trading at a higher level of 13,890 Nifty. Companies which have not done well have suffered and are trading at half the level at 7,498. Slide number 51 suggests how you should be doing your allocation. On 14 Jan, when index was 12,362, market cap to GDP ratio was 78%, higher than average market cap to GDP ratio. So you could have been neutral to marginal underweight on equity. On 23rd March, 7610 was the bottom when market cap to GDP ratio was 51%. That was the time to be super overweight. Currently, market cap to GDP ratio is 71%. It is below historical average, but by a small margin. Hence, you should be marginally overweight. We didn't know 12,362 was top. We didn't know 7610 was bottom. But by increasing your weightages in relationship with market cap to GDP ratio, you will be able to appropriately allocate to equity and take advantage of lower valuation. It doesn't mean that you will put all the money at 7610, but you will be increasing your allocation to equity as market moved from 10,000 Nifty to 9,000 Nifty to 8,000 Nifty to 7,600 Nifty. Slide number 52 shows that for conservative investors, Kotak Blue Chip Fund or Kotak Equity Opportunity will be appropriate. For average investors, Kotak Standard Multi-Cap will be appropriate. For aggressive investors, Kotak Focused Fund, Kotak Emerging Equity, or Kotak Mid-Cap Fund will be appropriate. What value add you can do from your side to the investors? Well, there are a couple of things which you could convince them. And one thing is to handhold them during this time. Slide number 54 shows that what happened in 4 years between 2014 to 18, where Sensex moved from 25,000 to 36,000, about 40% return. It happened in just about 4 months between 23rd March to 3rd July. If you had allowed investors to increase their allocation to equity in line with market cap to GDP ratio, you would have been able to capture this and your investors would have benefited by listening to your advice. Slide number 55 shows about debt funds. In the month of April end, when Templeton announced binding of 6 schemes, a lot of WhatsApp warriors and social media gurus came on television and print and Twitter to say that you should redeem from credit risk fund. If you had told your customers not to redeem from credit risk fund, they would not have suffered 32% or 42% annualized loss in the credit risk fund, as because of redemptions, we had to sell our assets at aggressive yield. In the month of May and June, this funds delivered 24 to 34% return in the month of May and 17 to 22% return in the month of June. Effectively, on an annualized basis, investors, by listening to your advice of staying invested in credit risk fund, would have made somewhere around 4 to 5% absolute return. This is the value add to your investors, where looking at Kotak Mutual Fund's portfolio, you could have convinced your investors to stay back. They would not have exited at losses. They would have actually made money in the month of May and June. The other value add which you can do to your customers is about SIPs, and slide number 56 shows how SIP returns changes. This is about Kotak Emerging Equity Fund. On a 10-year basis, this fund delivered 17% SIP return in the month of Jan with an alpha of almost 6%. It crashed in the month of March to 9%, but alpha still remained at about 7%. It recovered in the month of June when markets recovered to 12%, with alpha still remaining at about 6-7%. The SIP returns have swung from 17% to 9% to 12% in a space of 6 months. If you looked at 1 year SIP return, it was 27% in Jan, became minus 41% in March. It would have pushed many people to redeem. But if you'd have continued your SIPs in March, April, and May, by June, the returns would have become minus 6%. It is still negative, but compared to March, it is far lower. Whatever you buy at today's time period, it will give you great return going forward. There are a lot of people who are saying that we are not able to see the presentation, or asking, please share the presentation with us. Well, this presentation has been shared by way of link to all the email IDs which are registered with us. Please ensure that our email does not go to your spam, folder, and you'll have to download this presentation from the link provided to you. Next two slides talk about Kotak Equity Opportunities Fund and Kotak Tech Saver. The message is very clear that SIP returns will rebound whenever market turns. When you calculate SIP return in a bear market, your returns are very low, very poor, but the same returns go substantially higher in a bull market. Slide number 59 suggests that you should be continuing your SIP, and this will work very well for you. Slide number 60 and 61 again talks about SIP. These are self-explanatory. It explains logically with numbers why maintaining your SIP will be appropriate. What will be the products to suggest at current situation? Well, slide number 63 talks about Kotak Balance Advantage Fund. It increased its equity allocation from 37% in February 20 to almost 79% in March 20 at the bottom. And today, as markets have recovered, it's maintaining equity allocation of roughly about 59%. Obviously, this number changes on a daily basis. The next slide, on slide number 64, shows performance of Kotak Hybrid Fund for conservative investors. These are MIP kind of funds which delivers a fairly decent return vis-a-vis benchmark indices, and it might be appropriate for investors at this stage. We also recommend people to take little bit of extra risk, move from large cap to large and mid cap fund, as mid caps and small caps are becoming more attractive compared to large cap. Slide number 65 is self-explanatory. It shows valuation gap between Nifty Mid Cap 100 vis-a-vis Nifty. Slide number 66 shows about Kotak Pioneer Fund. This is one fund where we put part of portfolio into global technology companies. This is managed by CI Investments of Canada. We invest into their fund, and maybe this kind of funds, which are part domestic portfolio and part global portfolio, will be appropriate for investors. Slide number 67, we talk about gold. Slide number 68 suggests that somewhere in February 2020, when gold prices had corrected from $1,700 to $1,400, we had given in our monthly presentation bullish outlook on gold, investment call on gold. This call was driven by the fear of COVID-19. In an environment where interest rates are low and liquidity is high, gold prices does very well. It happened between 2008 to 2011, and similar trend may happen in 2020 onwards. Gold prices had moved by more than 100% between 2008 to 2011 in dollar terms. We believe current situation is almost similar to 2008 to 2011 from a directional point of view. On gold, the delivery pattern is increasing and net long position is also increasing. Slide number 70 shows how net long position is increased in last 3 months as investors have become bullish on gold, and also delivery volumes have started increasing as people have started taking delivery for longer term. All these factors does indicate that gold should be part of investors' portfolio, and gold prices will be rising in the days to come. Coming to the fixed income market, slide number 72 shows how liquidity has remained in surplus. RBI has created more than 6 lakh crore worth of liquidity. The inflation numbers have started are getting subdued. CPI is down to 5.91% in the month of March, and we believe CPI numbers will be below RBI's comfort level in the month of May and June. WPI has already reached into negative territory for the month of May. It is -3%. RBI is betting like Rohit Sharma to cut rates and pump liquidity. The debt FIIs on slide number 76 shows that finally they have become positive on India after dumping almost $12 billion worth of debt in March, April, and May. The 10-year government security has remained in a range-bound fashion with a slightly upward bias, but we believe 10-year government security should trade between 5.75 to 6.25 without RBI's active intervention. The yield curve spreads had widened in as represented on slide number 78 during the month of April, but in the month of May and June have declined reasonably as selling pressure disappeared. On the debt side, we believe interest rates will remain soft. It will move in a pendulum fashion. Direction of interest rate will be influenced by RBI's activity through open market operations or guidance on monetization of deficit. Credit spreads will continue to compress over a period of time, first in AAA rated assets, then in AA rated assets, and clearly in corporate bond, taking credit call will be most important. Slide number 80 and 81 shows our philosophy of investing in higher quality papers. In slide number 81, you can see that now 96% of our assets are in non-credit risk funds and only 4% is in credit risk fund. 94% of our AUM is in sovereigns or AAA P1 plus rated assets. Only 1.07% of my portfolio is in below AA minus rated assets. Compared to our peer group, we have maintained much higher credit quality in our portfolios across the period. Slide number 82 shows liquidity profile of our portfolio. Obviously, AAA P1 plus rated assets have higher liquidity, and we are linking their allocation to liquidity in the market. You could see, bearing our credit risk fund, all other funds enjoy much higher liquidity position to take care of any unexpected redemptions. Even in credit risk fund, the liquidity profile is almost 52% of the fund in medium term and 37% of the fund in credit risk fund. Slide number 83 suggests our past experience, wherein SL Group, we had to delay the exposure, but we were able to recover and pay back our investors full money. So every delay is not necessarily default or 100% write-off. In the fixed income space, we believe slide number 85 shows the current opportunity. The corporate bond spreads are remaining at higher level in June compared to historical averages. Of course, they have come down compared to April, but corporate spread today are attractive for investment in fixed income. Even perpetual bank bonds are attractive from an investment point of view, as demonstrated in slide number 86. The yield curve on slide number 87 shows a fairly flat yield curve. If you look at three of our funds, Kotak Banking and PSU Fund, Kotak Low Duration Fund, Kotak Credit Risk Fund, you can see the sharp differentiation in yield. The AAA rated funds have coupon income of around 6%, whereas credit risk and medium term fund have coupon income of about near higher single digits at 9% plus. At this point of time, in the short term, one can look at Kotak Low Duration Fund, details of which are available on slide number 88. If there are aggressive investors, they can also invest in Kotak Credit Risk Fund or Kotak Medium Term Fund, details of which are available on slide number 89. Slide number 90 suggests that we had promised that if we have to meet redemptions in our credit risk fund, we will meet by selling lower quality papers. We won't disrupt credit quality of the fund so that remaining investors suffers. And you could see our rating profile on 15th April to 30th June. By and large, we have done improvement on higher quality papers. We have funded redemptions by liquidating lower quality papers as promised. Slide number 91 shows credit profile of our portfolios in detail. These slides are self-explanatory. I would just like to reassure investors that we take a lot of pride in remaining conservative on the credit side. Slide number 92 suggests performance of Dynamic Bond Fund. It has done far better over years in outperforming benchmark indices and delivering absolute return to investors, which is far better than fixed deposits. Slide number 93 suggests our recommendation on duration side. This is time to take one step on duration as interest rates are soft and likely to come further down. With this, I will end my talk and open up for question answer. Manish Dodia asked the first question. In spite of economic and financial crisis, stock markets have recovered and presently only 15% down. Manish, as I mentioned earlier, you have to look at index in two parts. 15 stocks are trading at much higher level, 13,890, whereas 35 stocks are trading at 7,490 at level. If you look at small cap, they are down 51%, 49% from top, whereas large caps are down only 2% from 2017 level. So effectively, you are looking at a scenario where some parts of the markets have corrected, but few companies have lifted the entire market. There is another question, is the market level justified with 23 times FY21? Undoubtedly, 23 times is higher PE ratio, but since FY21 PE is depressed, this looks like a reasonable number. we believe market cap to GDP ratio will be better, and market cap to GDP ratio will give you better indication about valuation in absence of certainty on earnings calculation. Surendra Kumar Bagaria asked contribution of listed entities in GDP. Surendra bhai, I don't have the details available with me, but we will work out the number and come back to you. Undoubtedly, contribution of listed entities in GDP is substantially lower. Agriculture, services, and many unlisted companies have far bigger contribution to GDP. But in terms of profitability, contribution of listed entities to GDP pool is reasonably large. Prince Surana has asked, with Nifty EPS falling to about 450, is it really time to be overweight on equity? And also, are small caps offering better risk reward opportunity? Prince, as I mentioned, this is not the time to look at earnings. This is time to look at market cap to GDP ratio or price to book ratio. And based on that, this is time to be neutral to marginal overweight equity. One should have been super overweight in the month of March and April when market cap to GDP ratio was lower. But certainly today you should be neutral to marginal overweight equity as markets have started trading in and around historical averages. Pankaj bhai, my colleague, will answer your question on are small caps offering better risk reward opportunity. Pankaj, over to you.
Yes, I think absolutely. If you look at the broader market pain, it didn't start with COVID. I think the broader market pain, as demonstrated in the slide, started there from January 18. And if you take the January 18 till March 23rd, 2020, about 80% of the top 1500 stock by market cap had already corrected by 50% or more. And if you look at in this, rally, one thing which is coming out clearly is that the broader market are showing signs of strength. And this is the first time since, CY17 that mid cap maybe marginally has outperformed large cap in the first 6 months. And if you look at from a 3 to 5 year perspective, I think if next year COVID situation normalizes and economy kind of comes back, you would see this mid and small cap segment coming back very strongly. And valuations are, at very reasonable levels. We are seeing many companies from a bottom up opportunity perspective where the market cap is, very equivalent to the cash on the books, or maybe 30-40% of the market cap is demonstrated by cash on the books. Plus, in many companies, we are seeing the China plus strategy opportunity playing out. And we believe that that's a very, very important theme to focus on. And from a bottom up perspective, there'll be many opportunities. For example, in a small cap fund, we took 2 early bets 2-3 years back. One was electronic manufacturers, the two companies which are listed, and both of them are at all-time high pricing despite of small cap index being down 40-50%. And the other was the specialty chemical trade, where we saw a huge demand momentum coming out of the US chased China trade barrier. And that both themes seems to be more stronger footing post the COVID issue. So I believe that small cap on a bottom up basis, offering a very, very strong risk reward opportunity. And if one has a 3 to 5 year horizon, I think in 1 or 2 years, you will make a very decent return in small caps.
Thanks, Pankaj. Sweta Swain has asked, what is your view on interest rates over the next 3 to 5 years? Abhishek, do you want to answer this?
Hello. Yes, sir. I'll take that. See, over a broader horizon, we believe we are in a softer interest rate regime, primarily arising from slower GDP and lower inflation. Liquidity is likely to remain in the system. It will be difficult for to see over 3 to 5 years, but 1 to 2 years, definitely we are in a lower interest rate regime. If the overall cycle is achieved very quickly, then probably some reversal may happen. But in the near future, yes, we are in a very lower interest rate regime, and it will keep decelerating for some time.
Okay. There's another question from Santosh. If investors are invested in gilt funds, should they stay invested or look for an exit? Abhishek bhai?
Yes, sir. As I said, we are in a lower interest rate regime. As of now, the yield curve has steepened, which means the shorter end has performed, but the longer end is yet to perform. And given the overall macroeconomic picture, we believe there is a good space available for the 5 to 10 year segment in the corporate bonds and around 10 to 15 year in the sovereigns to fall by at least 50 basis point. Given the RBI support, it's not the question is if, it is when. When is the RBI likely to step into absorb the excess supply, and which means the gilt fund is there to shine for the near future.
Santosh bhai, you should look to invest in gilt fund with a 3-year horizon that will give you tax advantage. And compared to tax-free bonds, bank deposits, and other instruments, the past 3-year performance of gilt funds have been far better. So hopefully we will be able to maintain that going forward, subject to market. Clearly, at this stage, a lot of investors want to invest in gilt fund because of the credit concern, and we should take advantage of that by properly positioning gilt fund, as it will have day-to-day volatility. Abhishek, my another question is that is it right time to move from ultra short term to short term bond fund and banking and PSU bond fund?
Yes, that is also correct, because as I said, the yield curve has steepened, which means the extreme shorter end has fallen the most, which is correlating to your ultra short. Now, if you move from ultra short to short term or a PBG, it will give you at least 100-150 basis point kicker over a period of 1 to 2 years, which will be in percentage term reasonably good reward for the risk, incremental risk which you are taking. And eventually, the entire market is going to do that yield chasing, and gradually we'll find that yield curve is flattening and rewarding the investors who have already taken the bet on the short term or medium term kind of funds, and even long term, as I said in the beginning itself.
Pankaj bhai, question from Sanjeev Verma. Outlook on banking and pharma, and which are the sectors you are bullish on?
Okay, so sectors we are bullish on the portfolio side. One is clearly specialty chemicals. We believe that though valuations are not extremely cheap where we purchased it 2-3 years back, but the demand momentum and outlook continues to be still stronger. The second is cement, and I think that's a contra call which we took some time back. And contrary to our expectation, that sector has come back very fast, and there are consolidation benefits which are playing out in this sector. Pricing is very, very firm, though demand seems to be a little subdued. But we could see, better times in next 2-3 years from a cement sector perspective. The third is clearly the large private sector banks. And clearly the market share gains is happening from tier 2 private sector or PSU banks to larger private sector banks. And that's we see a next 3 to 5 year trend. The fourth is clearly on the auto side, two-wheelers and tractors. We believe that both the segments are showing very strong momentum. In tractors, the registration in June is at 123% compared to the Feb levels now. Registration data is suggesting that in the last week. So clearly, rural seems to be under very strong momentum. And there are many sectors like agrochemical, fertilizers, two-wheelers, tractors, where we have been positive on across our portfolios for quite some time. The other, bet which we are taking on our portfolios is at some point of time, global corporations setting up shop in India. And probably the investment cycle, which has been out for almost 10-11 years, probably should see a comeback. And most of the companies in capital goods, industrials, pipes, everywhere the consolidation has happened. And we believe that probably post-COVID, next 6 to 12 months out, there should be some revival in investment cycle, and the companies which have left probably will be rewarded. And nobody is looking at this sector, and probably industrial manufacturing offers a decent risk reward today from a next 3 to 4 year perspective. And that's one different bet probably we are taking. On the banking and financial, as I said, large sector bank, private sector banks remains our preference. On NBFC also, we have seen only 4-5 NBFCs have been able to, access capital and money in the last 6-12 months. And there where the, entire buck is moving. So preference again remain for those 4-5 names. And among the non-lenders, we are positive on insurance, both general and life. And there we believe that structurally you could have a 15%, 20% growth momentum, and you don't need to worry about NPAs there. So that's by and large our portfolio stands today.
There's another question from Vijay Bhagwat. Every day on media is telling that the market is becoming costly, hence will correct, but day by day it is moving up. Vijay bhai, that's the nature of the market. If everyone is expecting correction, generally market ka bottom ban jata hai. If everyone is expecting markets to rise, generally market ka top ban jata hai. And our media, they are highlighting probably what is the consensus in the market. And clearly there are more people who are wanting markets to come down so that they can invest back at 7,600 Nifty. Market is so cruel that it's not going to give that opportunity. Market will continue to rise before all those waiting money gets sucked in, and then only corrections will come. So that's one behavioral point of view. But we believe markets will fluctuate based on events. If events are such that medical breakthrough, fiscal monetary stimulus, China border clash, US election, these are in anticipation of markets, then markets will rise. If it is not in anticipation of markets, then markets will fall. Rajesh talked about arbitrage fund. Rajesh, in arbitrage fund, there are 3 ways to make money. One is positive arbitrage. You buy at 100 rupee in cash market, sell at 101 in future market, that 1 rupee becomes your return. In second position option, your return enhances if positive arbitrage is followed by reverse arbitrage. You buy at 100, sell future at 101, but due to short selling or other reasons, future goes to trade at 99. Now you reverse the position, you make 2 rupee return instead of 1 rupee. In that scenario, you make excess return. In the third scenario, when there is only reverse arbitrage, in order to maintain equity fund status of your fund, you have to sell at 100. You have to buy at 100 in cash market and sell futures at 99, incurring 1 rupee loss. If the fund has all the positive arbitrage, it makes money. If it has positive arbitrage plus reverse arbitrage, it makes double the money. But if it is only reverse arbitrage, then it loses money. In next 6 months, we expect arbitrage opportunities to fall in this 3 buckets. In the first 2 buckets, we will make money. In the third bucket, there will be marginal loss. So putting all these things together, arbitrage fund, you should invest with minimum 6 months view in today's market and be ready for 1 or 2 months where returns could be negative due to reverse arbitrage position. If investors are invested in gilt fund, should they stay invested or look for an exit? Abhishek bhai, what is your view? And also cover PSU Bank perpetual bonds.
Yeah, we just covered on the gilt fund, but I'll reiterate. We believe that given the slow or kind of negative GDP growth YOY basis, very slow inflation, sort of deflation, very good liquidity, low credit growth is going to lead to a good amount for demand for sovereign assets. And as of now, the short-term assets have performed, long-term assets are yet to perform. There is good value available there, and the savings will move to that particular segment, and hence they will perform. And therefore, you should remain invested. Gilt fund is an asset allocation call. It should be a part of your portfolio. Therefore, you should have 10, 15, 20% depending on your risk appetite to and your portfolio horizon into gilt funds. Now coming down to perpetual bonds have had a volatile journey so far. Going forward from PSU bucket, there was a good amount of volatility because of the various events which happened in the history. Secondary market is slightly shallow for daily trading purposes, but that doesn't mean the PSU perpetual bonds are going to default. They are giving attractive ITMs or yields given the market scenario, and overall the yield levels which are available given similar risk into the market. Therefore, we believe it's a good investment in the portfolio or individual holding, whatever the investors are preferring to, but from the PSU bucket and large private sector banks. So PSU bucket, there is no problem. Large private sector banks, there is no problem. Small private sector banks will be more volatile and will be vulnerable to the various events which are happening into the market. Therefore, it is difficult to comment in general. Otherwise, in PSU perpetual bonds, there is no problem as such. They are offering reasonably high returns to the risk they carry. But not from trading purposes on individual basis, as an asset allocation call, given the carry and the overall positioning, they are attractive bets.
So we remain overweight gold, marginal overweight equity, and in terms of fixed income, it is time to be overweight duration if you are not comfortable with credit, or it is time to consider credit risk fund on the conservative side with those fund houses who are managing the credit risk on the conservative side. Balasubramaniam N has said, do you feel crisis is bottomed out? No, Mr. Balasubramaniam, we can't say crisis has bottomed out because so far medical solution has not emerged. Market and we are hopeful that medical solution is round the corner. We have seen drugs like favipiravir, remdesivir, and dexamethasone doing wonders. We have seen vaccines which are moving into phase 3 trial. Out of those 7-8 vaccines, one will be successful. Once that is available, we can certainly say that economy and market has bottomed out. This crisis has come to an end, or this crisis will get resolved as vaccines will be available. Prashant Thakkar is asking question, what is the replacement of fixed deposit horizon of 2 to 3 years? Prashant bhai, there are multiple number of funds at our end which are good replacement to bank fixed deposits. I have the data as on 21st of May 2020, and please look at our fact sheet for more details. But all our fixed income funds have delivered between 7.58% return to 9.54% return for a 3-year period ending on 21st of May 2020. All these returns across low duration, ultra short term, money market, short-term bond, dynamic, corporate bond, banking and PSU is higher than bank fixed deposits by several percentage points. So any of this product, ultra short-term, low duration, short-term bond fund, dynamic bond fund, corporate bond fund, banking and PSU, depending upon their risk profile, will be appropriate on a 2 to 3 year basis compared to bank fixed deposits. Another question is, can we put lump sum or staggered manner? Well, we have never advocated lump sum money because one, we don't know where the top of the market is, where the bottom of the market is. It is always important to invest in a staggered basis, looking at valuation of the market and also looking at what is your investment objective and what is your asset allocation. In this period, it is important to invest in a staggered basis rather than lump sum basis. What is the view on Kotak Gold Fund? Is lump sum recommended at this rate? As I mentioned, gold, we are bullish as an asset class, and Kotak Gold ETF as well as Kotak Gold Fund will be appropriate vehicle to invest into. Again, gold is a commodity. It goes up and down. In last 1 month, it would have moved between $1,700 to $1,800. So if you can invest in tranches, it will be more appropriate. What is your view on Balance Advantage Fund? And what is your view on Kotak Pioneer Fund in brief? Pankaj bhai, you want to talk about these two funds?
Yeah, so Kotak Balance Advantage, as we showed in the slide, daily, looks at the equities and the valuation and the various metrics we have in our quant model. And as we speak today, we are at 59.4% on equity side. And during the correction, we went as high as 77, 78%. So the daily rebalancing definitely has helped us. And hence, from the March lows, the fund has done very well. And that's a dynamic asset allocation strategy, which we have been talking about, that at the low, we will probably go up to 80, 90% equity. And at the higher level, probably looking at the P ratio, we will rebalance it. And that's slide which is there is a part of the presentation deck. The second one on the Pioneer, we launched this fund last year. And happy to state that the NAV is above 10 rupees as we speak. And the 35% equities which gets invested in the CI fund of Canada on the tech platform has done very well. As we speak, NASDAQ is at all-time high. And as the world, is coming out of COVID, NASDAQ year to date has given 16% positive returns. And a part of that in the Pioneer Fund has reflected. And our thought was that to diversify local equities with global equities, and to a larger extent, if you look at this fund, has served our purpose or the diversification for investors rather than going 100 rupees completely into a S&P or a NASDAQ linked fund. So I think the fund is based on innovation. The fund is based on backing entrepreneurs, which are coming up with increased market share post pandemic. And the fund is positioned well to ride on the global tech opportunity through the CI based fund.
Pankaj bhai, there are two more questions on power and infra sector by anonymous person. And also there is a question by Swapnil on, is there a risk in banking and NBFC due to moratorium? After the moratorium ends, what will be the situation?
Okay, so I'll take the banking question first. I think obviously the moratorium to after it ends, obviously the market is looking, and even the banks and NBFCs are looking at inching up of the NPAs. But the data points which we are collecting after speaking to banks, and in the last 2 days, many banks and NBFCs have come with the quarterly update. And it's very surprising and nice to see that the moratorium in few of the names, large names, have actually come down compared to what it was, in the moratorium 1.0. Our sense is that probably in the next 6-12 months, yes, the situation is evolving, but the credit cost could be lower than what the street is expecting it to be, because the large corporate deleveraging, which we saw in the last 3-4 years, is broadly over. The MSME segment probably will, NPA you may not be able to see till March, because government has given 3.5 lakh crores credit guarantee scheme, and that progress is happening very nicely. As we speak, about 1,20,000 crore have already been sanctioned, and half of that amount has been disbursed by the bank, which is a very, very good sign in a very short period. So probably that will mask MSME NPAs to a certain extent till March. And probably after that, we have to see how MSME behaves. But the view is that probably economy should start coming back by then. So our sense is that moratorium will inch up NPAs, but probably not to the extent where street is factoring a very high credit cost for banks as well as NBFCs. The second question is on infra and power sector. Yes, we have seen a huge, problem in both the sectors in the last almost a decade or so. We started 2010 on a promise that probably this sector will come back, but that sector has disappointed the entire country. But however, as we look at now, the consolidation has happened in both power and infra. And our sense is maybe 12 months down the line, whenever economy starts showing signs of pickup on infra, I think there are very few players left. So now probably we are seeing first signs after a long, long time, whether it be road construction, railways, power EPC, every part of that segment where you could make a decent amount of returns, provided you bet on the right companies. Because many companies probably on the return on capital has come down to single digit level, which may not create wealth. But there are companies which are very quality companies with net cash on the balance sheet, with still 14-15% ROE on the overall profile, seems to be very well poised. And when I said industrial manufacturing, we are a slightly contra thinking right now in our portfolios. Some of the names are finding place in our portfolios right now.
There's a question by Rajesh Bhai that gold is at high levels because of low or nil imports. Do you think after opening of imports, it will not come down? Rajesh Bhai, gold prices are quoted in dollar. And if India is not importing, ideally gold prices should have come down. If Indian also start consuming gold by importing, this will support gold prices and gold prices will go up. Pankaj Gera, market cap to GDP ratio, is it based on revised GDP expecting correction or backward looking? Pankaj bhai, we are looking at what is the latest GDP number available. With every revision, that number will keep on changing. And again, these are all thumb rules which we are using. These are not for precise indication. Narayanan has asked, will those 35 stocks also get re-rated for the better? What are your views? Mr. Narayanan, I personally believe if economic recovery sustains and medical solution is found, then those 35 stocks can bounce back. May not be all 35, but certainly 15 to 20 out of those 35 stocks will bounce back. So a lot will depend upon how quickly medical solution comes, how quickly situation normalizes, how quickly all of us can step out of our house to do normal economic activity. Vishal Rathod, do you think that NPAs and defaults will increase post 1 quarter of the moratorium period somewhere in December 2020, and what will be the effect? Vishal bhai, market knows that there is moratorium ending and that could result into hike in NPAs. So it is trying to forecast certain set of increase in NPAs based on moratorium. But as Pankaj explained, it keeps on changing depending upon how situation is behaving. Now, I explained you about unemployment numbers based on the data from CMI. Now, CMI number on 3rd May talked about 27% unemployment. At that point of time, market had one view on the NPS because of moratorium. Now, on 28th of June, unemployment is down to 8.59%. If that is the real number, then market's expectation of NPS will be totally different. So market will keep on making constant adjustments. We do believe that post-moratorium, some NPS will increase, but it will be lesser than what is priced by the market today. Rohan Singh is saying that last 10 years, Nifty has underperformed debt and liquid markets. This long-term investing delivering returns looks doubtful. Rather, investing when valuations are down has given meaningful returns like 2011, 2016. Why doesn't Kotak give calls on equity allocation based on valuation metric? Rohan bhai, if you look at my balance advantage fund cash allocation, it is giving you direct call. If you look at some of the annexures in monthly presentation, it is giving you direct call. In this call also, we have shown you market cap to GDP ratio as a benchmark for taking call on equity allocation. If your expectation is that I knew 12,000 was top and 7,600 was bottom, obviously we didn't have that knowledge. And which is why we are giving you tools with which you can figure out that at 12,000 Nifty, I should be marginal overweight or neutral weight. At 7,600 Nifty, I should be super overweight. And today at 10,500 Nifty, you should be marginally overweight to neutral weight. That is how you'll have to take a call. No one knows which is the top, which is the bottom. All of us have to gauge which is overvalued zone, which is undervalued zone. Chintan is asking a question. In Kotak BEF fund, the equity allocation in last 2 months have fallen from 79 to 59%. Does it mean that your model is expecting a fall and that we should wait now? Pankaj bhai, you want to take this?
So yeah, model is a combination of various factors, PE, price to book. And obviously, from the bottom, the market has moved up very significantly. So there is a reasonable amount of probability that you may see a, near-term pullback as well. And that's what the market is expecting it to be. So model also kind of looks into sentiment, volumes, institutional activity, price to book, price to earning. and on that it takes a call. So there could be a period where model may kind of go wrong for some time, but generally we have seen with the lag model normally gets it right, but it has not gone to say like 20-30%, which it was when the market was 11,500 or 12,000. So just keep the overall context that 59-60% is also still a very large number, because you have gone as low as 20-25% also when market and Nifty went up to 12,000, almost 12,000, 12,300.
So Chintan bhai, if you look at the range of 20 to 80, this model is still marginal overweight equity at 59%. It's only in 20 to 40 range, it will be underweight equity. So what we are giving a call in terms of marginal overweight to neutral weight on equity is similar to this 59%. So if you divide 20 to 80 in a ratio, 60 to 80 is super overweight equity, 40 to 60 is neutral weight equity, 20 to 40 is underweight equity. At 40, you are underweight equity, at 20, you are super underweight equity. At 59, you are neutral weight equity, and our call based on that is marginal overweight to neutral underweight, neutral weight equity. So it is the same allocation, same decision, same direction which we are giving. Gaurav bhai has asked a question that last 2 years index is moving, but no broader market movement. Is it better to switch all funds to index fund? Nahi, Gaurav bhai, this will not be the right time to switch to index fund, because if you notice, 50 stocks have done very well, or sorry, Nifty 50 has done very well because of 15 stock. Nifty Junior, Nifty Mid Cap 100, Nifty Small Cap have all done badly compared to Nifty Large Cap. Now, going forward, if small and mid caps based on valuation starts recovering, and we did see a glimpse in calendar year this year where mid caps have fallen less than large cap. It's just 1% less fall, but this is a good trend. Normally mid cap falls more than large cap, but this time it has fallen less than large cap. So somewhere mid caps and small caps are bottoming out, and if they indeed start moving up, the other funds will deliver better return compared to index fund. So this is not the time to move into index fund. This is time to stay invested in non-index fund. Leher has asked, do you expect any impact of India-China issue on markets? Well, markets have discounted that the India-China will be localized conflict. It will not become full-scale war. So as long as full-scale war doesn't happen, as long as it doesn't escalate into other parts of boundary, I think markets will be fine. This is what market is discounting, rightfully or wrongfully. Rohan Singh has asked, valuations are already at pre-COVID levels in terms of PE and PB. In PE terms, yes, valuations are at pre-COVID levels, but that is not because prices have moved up. It is because earnings have come down. Earnings visibility has been depressed, which is why PE looks expanding. But what we have to look at is price to book, which is still 10% below historical average. Our rural economy, we have already shared our views. Is it a good time to invest in overseas funds through FOF route? Lloyd has asked question. Undoubtedly, one must increase allocation to overseas equities, especially for buying those businesses which are not available in Indian context. For example, there's no Google in India, there's no Facebook in India, there's no Microsoft in India. There may be many pharma companies which are not present in India. There are many defense equipment companies which are not present in India. So by investing in overseas market, we will be able to pick up those businesses which don't exist in India. And certainly there are many other fund houses who have better offshore funds because of their parent. In our portfolio, we have Gold Fund, which gives you offshore asset exposure indirectly, and Pioneer Fund, which gives you part offshore exposure. But undoubtedly, one must increase allocation towards offshore funds through fund of fund route. Sachin Sheikh talked about India-China situation aggravating from here? And what are your suggestions in this scenario? Sachin bhai, no two nuclear armed nations have gone to war. So at worst, we will see more skirmishes between India and China across the border. At best, we will see current settlement holding on. So my feeling is that market today is comfortably taking a call that because of the large Himalayan buffer between India and China, there will not be war. There will be minor skirmishes here and there, but it will not translate into higher escalation. From a commercial point of view, India is now controlling China in terms of containing the damage. We allowed China to increase their trade deficit to almost $60 billion. Over 3 years, it has come down to $49 billion. We must aim to bring it down below $30 billion. All Chinese apps were getting free run into India, even though none of the Indian apps were allowed to enter China. Now we have removed all those apps and people are also removing it on a voluntary basis. So this escalation of India and China will continue to rise on the trade side. There's only one country in Asia which can, counter China, and that is India in terms of size as well as in terms of potential. So India, China will be on a subtle war path, but not resulting into physical war.
Can I add something to this, sir?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so I think for all the participants on this call, one needs to understand that the $50 billion, which is roughly about 3.5 lakh crore, is a very large amount. And if you look at between sectors, 70% of our API is getting imported, which is roughly about 20,000 crore worth. 25% of our automobile parts, which is roughly about 35,000 crore, is today getting imported. Look at the electronics and the mobile market. It's a $120 billion market in India today. And a large part is dominated either by Chinese firms or from China in terms of component. So one may look at it as a, adversary, but when we are interacting with companies across the spectrum, the kind of work which is going on with the government is serious in terms of how to make sure that the Indian industry is self-sufficient in terms of overall over the next 3 to 5 years. It won't happen over the magic over the next 3 to 6 months, but the direction is set up right. And we believe that there's a lot of opportunity which could come across because of the US-China trade tensions and because of the fact that we are looking inwards now to make sure that the reliance on the Chinese import comes down. One example before I give it to Sir again, one of the matrix company which is listed in India, in its recent conference call spoke about that there's been huge inquiries from US retailers for mattresses. And even if they convert 10% of that, it would mean a 600 crore opportunity in next 2 years. And just to put in context, the current size is 20 crores. So people are talking that even if they can convert 10, 15, 20%, it's 10x, 20x, 30x kind of opportunity which is emerging. So we should not leave that site, out, because that in the next 3-5 years on the hindsight will give us that growth, in many companies, but it has to be bottom up. But we are seeing a lot of work happening across sectors where government has identified 12 sectors to be the champion sectors in the economy. Right, sir. Over to you, sir.
Thanks, Pankaj. There's a question that is it right to invest in emerging equity for 5 years? And is it better to invest SIP or lump sum? Well, you have to invest on an SIP basis if your allocation to equity is marginal overweight to neutral weight. If you are extremely underweight equity, then you can consider systematic transfer plan over next 3 to 6 months to invest into Kotak emerging equity. Will large cap funds be able to generate alpha over index fund? Well, that is our job. And if we don't generate that alpha, we will lose our job. We have no option but to generate alpha for our sake as well as for our investors' sake. And we have seen cycle where there were periods where alpha was not generated, but moment small and mid cap starts performing, we were able to generate alpha. In the current context, when you're comparing our alpha generation, you need to keep in mind few things. One, index does not have cash. but funds have to carry cash for redemptions on a daily basis. So there is a drag on performance because of cash. Second, in index, you have no expenses, but funds carry expenses. So when you are comparing TRI globally, expenses added back into the fund. In India, we don't add it back to the fund. So that also reduces our alpha in that sense. Third, in index, when a stock is removed or added, it is done at the closing price. But if you have to go and buy stock in a large quantity, you have to pay a huge impact cost. So when you are looking at our alpha, do keep in mind cash balance, which we keep for daily redemption, impact cost of portfolio, which is not considered in index, and more importantly, expenses which we have to incur to run fund management and pay brokerage and commission. If you adjust for this, then even today, Indian fund managers are generating decent alpha. Ashwin asked a question in June, economic data is better due to spending backlog of April and May. Undoubtedly, Ashwin bhai, there is some bunched up demand in June, and which is why it is extremely crucial to see how this demand is carried forward, how this recovery is carried forward. My feeling is that most companies have figured out how to live with the virus. They have taken proactive measures to contain virus in their factories, and hopefully things should start getting normalized unless until we get a shock on the medical side. Shilpa Seth has asked question, have market cycles become small and swift? What's the impact on long-term investors who have buy and hold strategy? Does BEF make more sense in such times? Undoubtedly, Shilpa, market cycles have become small and swift. We did show you a chart where how 4 years Sensex moved from 25 to 36 and how in 4 months it moved from 25 to 36. So what was happening earlier in 4 years is now happening in 4 months. And undoubtedly, long-term investors who are doing buy and hold strategy will have to be extremely careful. The biggest of the long-term investor, Mr. Warren Buffett, his Berkshire Hathaway stock is probably underperforming S&P 500 for some time. Balance Advantage Fund is definitely suitable for conservative investors. Here, the potential to generate return is comparable to equity fund with far less volatility. Sailesh Mawani asked a question on gold. Should we increase allocation to gold beyond 8% of the portfolio? Yes, Sailesh bhai, we will recommend at today's time up to 10% allocation to gold, keeping in mind lower interest rates and high liquidity prevailing in the market. Abdul Khan has asked a question, market is getting polarized and only big companies have done well, which made them very expensive. So what should be the ideal mix between large, mid and small cap at current level if one wishes to construct portfolio? Pankaj bhai, you want to answer Abdul bhai?
Yeah. So yes, the market polarization has happened, but one myth I wanted to clear for all of you, that large doesn't, any leader doesn't mean only large cap. And barring few sectors like oil and gas, where you have only representation through large cap, or telecom, across domestic focused economy sectors, there are leaders which are represented by mid and small caps. And we are seeing, even in this pandemic, that many of those companies, because they don't have leverage, are doing exceedingly well. And our sense is a lot of our investee companies, which are probably in that space, which are leaders, maybe in tiles, plywood, maybe in auto ancillary, maybe in chemicals, maybe in cement, they probably will come out much stronger with higher market share. The second point is that between large, mid, and small, our sense is that one can increase allocation to mid and small cap segment, and broader market, in our view, over the next 2-3 years should give far superior returns than the frontline indices. As we have seen, if you look at Nifty 10, Nifty 20, Nifty 30, they are almost at their all-time peak, but still the broader market is at discount. So if we believe that broadly economy will come back after 12-18 months, I think this segment can offer better risk reward. But out of 100 rupees, don't go all in at 100 rupees to this segment, because it will come with its own volatility. Have 30, 40, 50 depending on the risk appetite of the investors, in this segment, and the rest 50 rupees you can choose between a dynamic asset allocation fund, a large cap or a multi-cap fund, or a large mid-cap fund, whichever way you want to go.
Rishi has asked a question that the growth in active infection rate is high. It doubles less than in a month. Even though we are hopeful of a medical solution now, by the time vaccine is mainstream, we will have millions of active patients. Is market ignoring such underlying risk? No, Rishi, market is obviously aware of the risk which is being taken by everyone. And it is trying to factor that one, normal economic activity can resume despite the virus. Second, even if infections go up, it will not disrupt normal economic activities. Is market right, wrong? One doesn't know. But clearly there are some trends which could support market hypothesis. One, virulence of virus could be coming down as it happens with viruses. Second, medical knowledge to manage virus increases with every addition of patients. Third, combination of drugs, vaccines will be available to tackle situation. Fourth, medical infrastructure will be ramped up to manage situation. So market is assuming that people will learn how to live with the virus with passage of time, and normal economic activity will continue. If things materializes the way market is priced in, then markets will rise from here. If not, then obviously markets will fall. There is a call by Sailesh Agarwal. It has always been a case of sell at low, despite all efforts by managers and advisors. What can we do together, in your opinion, to bridge the gap? Sailesh bhai, we just have to bring facts to people's eyes. Investor Mentor is one classical book which everyone should read. In a very simple term, it explains why it makes sense to be a long-term investor. If you see our monthly presentation, there are at least 20 to 30 slides which will help you convince a person that he should be a buyer at current Nifty rather than a seller, despite potential market correction. So as long as we can spread the knowledge, I think ignorance will disappear. We all have to be candlelight individually. We have to burn and spread knowledge so that darkness can disappear from the investor's mind. Pankaj bhai, view on PSU stock, a question by JMC.
So PSU stocks, in many pockets are showing value, but that value has remained value for a very long period, almost a decade. And if you look at one of the worst performing, where people had optimism, was PSU banks. And clearly that segment in a decade basis have given negative returns. So unless structurally you see hands changing, the intrinsic value probably may not get unlocked. However, in our portfolios, if you look at, we have stock specific names where we believe that there's a lot of value and the company run by leaders are doing extremely well. One is in defense space, one is in logistics space, one is in oil and gas marketing company. So wherever we feel that there is intrinsic value, plus the leadership is good, and probably the competition may not destroy the moat of that company, we are positive. But for PSU pack to entirely move, you need some trigger which is changing of hands. And I think unless we see some proof of pudding there, the entire pack to get derated will be, re-rated will be a tough task. And we have seen again and again the hope coming back to PSU banks. But on a decade basis, that segment has underperformed massively. Actually, that segment has given you negative returns if you look at it on a decade basis. So we'll be very selective in PSU. Just will not ride with the entire momentum saying that buy all PSU stocks. No.
Ashwin has asked a question: due to lack of confidence, job losses, business losses, etc., the economic activity may slow down from July and August. Do you see this as big risk? Ashwin, undoubtedly all the points which you have raised are absolutely correct, and which is where fiscal and monetary stimulus has to work together. No one would have expected that unemployment will fall from 27% to 9% so quickly. But it happened as confidence came back, economic activity resumed normally. So my guess is that today market is indicating that July-August recovery will be sustained on the basis of June recovery. It will not falter. In case there is faltering, obviously markets will fall. In case there is no faltering, markets can rise. Deep Lakshmi is saying, Nilesh bhai, as a fund house, we believe in buying business houses with leadership ability and look down on their dressed up balance sheet. Will I buy this even though costly, stroke asking higher premiums? Well, Deep Lakshmi, it's a difficult call. If you were invested in value stocks, they are down more than 50%. We run a PMS scheme called Special Situation Value. Here we have delivered alpha compared to value index. Value index is down, on a different level between 30% to 60%. Our funds have fallen far less, but customers have a very unpleasant experience because their absolute returns are negative. In PMS, we have a classical case of positive alpha and negative return, creating unpleasant experience for customers. I have to balance between value stock, growth stock, and making money. So it's a tough choice which we are exercising right now, where we are buying expensive stocks with some margin of safety through proper management, through better profitability growth. And at the same time, we are also keeping a tab on value, where if unlocking happens, we can move into that sector or that counter. Should we look at ETFs and index funds? Sanjay Thakkar. Well, Sanjay bhai, you should definitely look at gold ETF. And in terms of equity index fund, if there are smart beta index funds, one can consider. But pure index fund like Nifty, Nifty mid cap, Nifty small cap, my feeling is that active funds should be able to outperform their benchmark indices. If you look at SIP returns given in those presentation, Kotak Emerging Equity, Kotak Equity Opportunity, or Kotak Tex, or even in the previous presentation, other funds like Kotak Standard Multi-Cap, we have been able to add value to index over 1, 3, 5, 7, 10 years. And hence, it is better to invest in active funds which are outperforming benchmark indices. There is a question, looking at the inflation risk, you are more comfortable with equity or debt for next 2 to 3 years. One, we are not looking at inflation bouncing back because demand has been hit. Supply is getting restored. For example, today, commercial vehicle guys are operating at 5%, 10% utilization. Even if truck demand recovers by a significant amount, their capacity utilization will not be very high. So effectively, because of supply side which is open and demand side which is hit, 2 to 3 years view, inflation will not bounce back rapidly or sharply. And keeping that in mind, one can look to invest in both debt as well as equity. Equity valuations are reaching their historical average. Hence, we are saying marginal overweight to neutral allocation. On debt, credit spreads are attractive. One can look at credit risk fund. And if you don't prefer credit risk fund, then duration is attractive. Abhishek bhai, are you expecting further repo rate cut from RBI? If yes, how much?
RBI may get near-term constrained by the inflation rate, which may be falling little lesser, or it may be optically high because of the food prices and volatility around that. But yes, as and when the space opens, a 50 basis point is possible, and when it keeps moving in a lower direction, probably more can be delivered. But RBI probably may be choosing other ways and means to impact the yield curve on the longer end, rather than just going with a repo rate cut as a tool.
So there may not be any out of monetary policy rate cut. It may happen on a scheduled date. Will that be fair to say?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. How do you see investment in banking and PSU debt fund with a horizon of 1 to 3 years? Swapnil is asking.
Banking and PSU, actually, if you look at the overall theme, is theme towards safety. Liquidity and safety. Obviously, liquidity is abundant in the banking system, So as and when people are looking at this particular investment horizon and the safety comes first into mind, the either it is banking assets or PSU assets or gilt assets. So if you combine both these two together, this is a beautiful product, and we are seeing good amount of flows in the product.
Is it advisable to invest in
Yes,
10-year
yes.
STL or 10-year GSEC?
See, as far as SDL spreads are concerned, if it is for an STM kind of move, obviously SDL is providing around 60 basis point spreads higher over 10-year GSEC. But if you look at the spread history from a trading bed point of view, we are avoiding SDLs at this point in time because there is a reasonable amount of supply in the offering in the SDL market. And when the market turns bullish, typically either the sovereigns will perform, and if you want to really trade spread assets, corporate bonds are equally a better bet where the demand supply situation is favorable. So either go corporate bonds or GSEC at this point in time trading. And for duration, 15-year bonds are equally yielding 15-20 basis point here and there vis-a-vis the SDLs. They are better buy than the buying SDL at this point in time.
Surendra Kumar Bagaria, can we expect more volatility in gilt fund? Can it take out last 1 year's return?
See, if standing today, last 1 year return, let's say around 13 to 14%, to take out that return, we need at least 200 basis point uptick in yield. So that is clearly ruled out. 10-15 basis point here and there is fine. And if you observe, the uptick in the yield is much lower than the downtick. So which clearly suggests the direction of the yield. Whatever uptick is happening, people are using it to acquire asset rather than just move out of the market. So the risk is very, very, very low, and it can only happen with some out of turn bizarre events such as war.
Any view on oil price movement, Pankaj Bhai?
Yeah, so we thought that $18-20 was the bottom, and somewhere for a very short period, market also shows negative oil prices. So this pandemic has shown many things which we haven't seen in our lifetime. But from here on, from a demand supply side, when we look at the supply side has been well constrained. And as we look at the market, which was in contango, probably has narrowed down and has in some days it has moved into backwardation also. So at $40-45 seems to be well balanced on the demand supply side. But if there is any shock from geopolitical tensions or Middle East, we won't rule out a spike in oil prices for a very short period of time. But structurally, if you look at the move towards more environmental friendly, towards less of thermal coal, towards less of IC engine, which is petrol and diesel, more towards electric vehicle, all those are pointing towards a demand scenario over the next 10 years, which will be probably lower than where we are today from a developed market perspective. So I think from a near-term perspective, $30 to $45 range, I would think will hold good. And probably if there is any shock, that range could be broken out on the upper side.
What is the status of Yes Bank perpetual bond? Mr. Gandhi has asked. Well, as per RBI direction, Yes Bank had return of 81 bonds, and then all the investors had taken to the court to fight against that decision. Our case is pending in Mumbai High Court. Because of this COVID lockdown, physical appearances were not possible, and we are waiting for our date or our hearing on an online basis. We will be representing to the Honorable Court our side of story, that we invested looking at the offer memorandum or offer document of Yes Bank, which now the current management has accepted that it was not fair, it was not appropriately disclosed, and there was complete misrepresentation of Yes Bank situation in that offer document. We just hope and pray that honorable courts will take right decision, and based on whatever will be the decision of the court, we'll have to bind by the decision. Saptarsi is asking, is it right time to invest in pharma fund? Pankaj bhai, we don't have pharma fund, but we can still answer.
Yeah. So on the pharma side, our view has been that you need to be very stock specific. Uh, and valuations are no longer cheap. But if you look at the current context relative to many sectors, this sector has been more resilient in terms of earnings. And with the government thrust on API manufacturing coming domestic, I think you will see on a bottom up basis many companies offering growth opportunities, and you have to approach that. But one trend which we are seeing in pharma, that the large leaders of the previous cycle, probably they are still 50% lower. So that is suggesting that the trend is probably not changed, and many mid-cap pharma companies have already crossed their all-time highs. So it makes a lot of sense to approach this sector from a bottom-up stock picking approach, which we are doing in our live funds. But we have never been a huge propaganda that we should invest a large amounts of money in a sectoral fund, and we would still retain that view. And if you need to go, maybe maximum 5 to 10% in sectoral funds is what we would advise you, because the sector can go through changes, volatility very fast. Also, one point which I would like to, kind of put across, that pharma sector should not be looked only from an Indian context perspective. There are many pharma companies, for example, Pfizer, which is a global company and doing a vaccine for COVID. It's trading at about 12, 13 times 1 year forward earnings. So it's very, very cheap compared to some of the generic pharma companies in India, which we have. And over the years, the generic pharma companies have got derated globally. But in India, because that's the bouquet we have, we tend to just ignore the global valuations. But globally, pharma companies are trading at a far cheaper valuation. And there have been, other uh, companies in biologics. There have been companies in different other innovation spheres in pharma and healthcare, which are doing much, much better than jobs than some of the generics. So approach this sector on a bottom up basis. Don't have a complete view that one pharma sector will do wonders. I don't think that approach will work right
Rajesh has said, is there any chance of increase in interest rate future? And there was earlier question, can government write off government bonds to zero like Yes Bank 81 bonds? Well, Rajesh bhai, there may be upward movement in interest rate. As I said, 10-year yield may swing between 575 to 6 quarter. But do we see policy rates going up in the medium term? Answer is no. We think trajectory of repo rate is still down rather than up, and in terms of government bonds, return of to zero, unlikely that will happen. Government can always print money and pay back. The Zimbabwe government is printing trillions of dollars to pay back their debt. So it is unlikely that government bonds will have the same consequences like Yes Bank 81 bonds. Any impact due to the current issue with US visas on Indian IT sector, Pankaj bhai?
now. As of now, no, but that's always a risk which we need to keep in mind from IT sector. There have been a lot of noise about H1B visa coming under threat, and you may see that happening. But that's been going on for quite a while now. But as of now, we haven't seen any action on that front. But that's always a risk from IT sector perspective.
Sai Sumanna has said Zoom is a Chinese American venture. Can you please avoid? Sai, definitely we would like to go for Indian application, and Reliance Jio has already launched one. If it is useful, definitely we will move to that going forward. But along with us, all of you also should move, because if I am the only person on that application and all of you are not, then how will I communicate with you? But undoubtedly, we support Be India, Be Indian, by Indian. Rajiv Shah has asked a question, can we expect good performance from aggressive hybrid fund going forward? Pankaj bhai, aggressive hybrid fund.
Yeah, the fund has done exceedingly well in the last 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, 2 year, 3 year. In between last year, we had a bad patch for 6 months. We came back very, very strongly. And if you look, compare it with most of the hybrid funds in the categories, over a 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, we are probably doing well. And the idea is to run somewhere between 75 to 80% equity in that fund. you may see some, fluctuations, volatility, depending if some peer groups are running 70%, 72%, maybe 55%. In the month of March, we saw that, gap, but it comes back very fast as well. If we will live to its true promise of being aggressive hybrid fund between 75 to 80% and having a multi-cap strategy portfolio. And the fund in the past has done well, barring 6 months of interim period. And the fund continues on a 1 year, 3 year, 5 year basis to do well.
Another question is, what is your view on the 715 government floating interest scheme against dynamic bond fund? Abhishek bhai?
Yeah. See, basically, what we are saying is we are in a falling interest rate environment where capital gains are quite good vis-a-vis the risk in the underlying fund. So if you're going in a floating interest rate asset vis-a-vis a fixed asset, which is likely to deliver much better returns, my guess is the fixed one is likely to do better. Whenever the view becomes that the interest rates are going to rise from here on, which at least is not our view in next 1 to 2 years or maybe 3 years, and the reset is likely to remain lower, therefore we would go with the dynamic bond.
For senior citizen at this level of Nifty, what will be fund recommended where the downward risk is less than balanced fund? Well, then the best two funds available will be Kotak equity savings schemes, where equity allocation is around 40%, or Kotak monthly income plan, which is now known as Kotak conservative hybrid debt fund. These are the two funds where downside will be protected at this level of Nifty. Naveen Mutreja is asking question for a 12 to 15 month horizon, low duration fund, short-term bond fund, or balance advantage fund. Naveenji, balance advantage fund, you can't invest with 12-month horizon. It requires minimum of 3 year plus horizon. Between low duration fund and short-term bond fund, both will be appropriate. My recommendation is that short-term bond fund today is more likely to be rewarding compared to low duration fund on a 12 to 15 month horizon. There's another question, why is Tata still rated AA minus? Well, Tata still is rated AA minus because rating agency believes that the debt profile of Tata Steel is very high, and despite Tata's having a great track record in honoring their commitment, the debt profile of the company is indicating them to push AA minus rating. Now, from our point of view, we perceive Tata Group companies as AAA rated companies because promoters have never defaulted to lenders. They always honor their commitment. But obviously, rating agencies have to take into account what is the financial profile of the borrower, and Tata Steel with its leverage is coming into AA minus bucket. With this, we have answered almost 156 questions on Q&A side. It's almost 2.25 hours of call. Again, we thank you for your attendance and presence, and stay safe, stay invested. We will end this call. Thank you.
म्यूचुअल फंड निवेश बाजार के जोखिमों के अधीन हैं। योजना से जुड़े सभी दस्तावेजों को ध्यान से पढ़ें।
ऐसे और वीडियोस देखने के लिए सब्सक्राइब करें हमारा YouTube चैनल।